Have you been scared off from buying a house because rates have been frighteningly high? The Sharp Mortgage team in Winston-Salem can help make it feel far less spooky. There are many programs available now that can keep your mortgage payment from making you want to scream. You will dread it if you don't call for more information today because Halloween is right around the corner. With the Sharp Mortgage team, there are no tricks, and they will treat you and the zombies you love like family.
This is Twin City Talk. I am Susie, and today I'm here with Burgess Jenkins, who most people know as an actor, but here in Winston, we know him as the owner of The Remedy.
Heck yeah, we do.
Appreciate that.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and,
about myself.
Acting to business owner.
Wow. So, 30-year journey to get to that place. So I grew up in Winston, and for me, this town is magical. I've always felt that way about it. I don't know what that is exactly, but it's just something that's this bond I seem to have with this city. And anytime I would meet anyone who wasn't from the area, I would always talk to them about my experiences, how much I love it. And I've had half a dozen people say, so eventually you're going to run for mayor, right? No, I'm not running for mayor. But I do. I love this town. I think part of the reason is that the simple things that are kind of obvious, like you have 4 seasons distinctly, and that they're all beautiful, and that the mountains are right there, and that the beach is right there. And if you want to go down and catch a pro football game or whatever in Charlotte, it's right there. So it has everything you want, while at the same time being so accessible. This town is both logistically accessible and people accessible. The people are wonderful. And so I've had the fortune to live in a lot of places. I lived in L.A. for the better part of, nearly 15 years if you count all the back and forth. And Atlanta, New York, and a bunch of other places. And they're all wonderful in their own right, but my heart was always here, and I couldn't wait to get back. L.A. was great to me, and I had a wonderful career out there. And thankfully, as technology changed, I didn't always have to be in L.A., so you could live remotely and tape remotely and do that. So that afforded me the ability to get back here, and I did as fast as I could so I could raise my family here.
So when someone walks in The Remedy, what do they expect to see?
Wow. My hope with The Remedy was that when people would come in, no matter who they are, they can find themselves there. And it feels that way to me. I wanted it to appeal to pretty much everyone. And if you walk in the doors, that's usually what you see. You'll see the college kids studying. You'll see executives, working out a meeting or whatever. You'll see a loft reserved for a baby shower. You'll see, people discussing art at the bar. It's every type of person in there, and it's very warm and inclusive. And I think also the fact that it's situated in West End, which has that historic vibe to it, and you get the sort of the city's founding effect out of it when you're in there. And then the architecture itself, just the building itself, is so beautiful, eclectic, and so unique in that Mediterranean style. It all culminates into this really welcoming community. I see people that don't know each other frequently, but they happen to come in on some degree of regularity, talking and hanging out and having a coffee together, and that's what I hope for. They're on the couches by the fire, etc.
So my question is, and I know the answer, but why did you call it The Remedy?
Yeah, okay, so The Remedy is born out of the fact that originally in 1928, it was the Summit Street Pharmacy, and it was that way for roughly 40 years. And so back in the day, of course, when you went to a pharmacy, it wasn't just pharmacy. There was soda fountain, and kids could get a toy and a sweet, and they'd go play in the park across the street. And so it was very much a place where people would culminate and hang out. And pharmacy, of course, changed over time, but I wanted to bring back that community spirit that existed before. My great-grandfather raised my grandfather right up the hill. And they used to tell me stories about coming down there and getting their malt and then going across to the park and playing for hours. And, there was a period of time when you drive past that building and it was all but boarded up, before Mock Orange went in there. And it would just kind of break my heart a little bit. So when we acquired the building, it was the opportunity to bring back some of that former glory. Not to say that Mock Orange didn't do a great job. They did as well. It was a very cool bike shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other than, running for mayor, what would you like to see in Winston-Salem's future?
Well, Mr. Joins is doing a lovely job of that, so I'll let him continue to do so. What would I like to see more of? Honestly, more of the same, more of what we're doing. Anybody who's spent any time here, and of course for me, having a history since I was a little kid growing up here, seeing the changes in this city have been nothing short of remarkable. I mean, it's really incredible. And if you go back far enough, you can remember going downtown after 5 o'clock was a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's the place to be. It's super cool. So honestly, more of the same, more of the diversity, more of the community spirit that I think once was and is now again. And there's so much of this desire to collaborate, to expand in a way that makes the most out of the city, and something that I've always loved and honestly I was a little worried might get lost over time, because I feel like a lot of cities do lose this, and that is their history and their charm. As cities expand, I heard a lot of people talking about Los Angeles when I would live out there, and they would say, LA is a great place, but back in its heyday, it was the Silver City, and people would talk about the vibe of the place, whether it was the Rat Pack kind of feel and all that. But then it started to turn into this transient place where a lot of that history got lost, and you kind of have to look for it to find it. Winston never lost that. I mean, anybody who's been here any time, they can talk to you about Old Salem, they can talk to you about its beginnings and how it got to be where it is. And it's great that seems to still be embraced. It's a charming place. It's still very much that way. So I love that those things are being preserved. So the answer to the question is more of the same.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, my favorite spot in Winston is in Old Salem, where you can stand and see the skyline, but you're in this historic part. It's so cool.
That is one of the coolest things. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, down next to Winkler Bakery, and you're just standing there and you see that long drag shot.
It's
so cool.
And then also like Quarry Park, you can also see a great skyline there.
Yeah.
Over him. So
I've lived here for 38 years, and I have never, I know it's recent, but I've not been to Quarry Park.
Really? You need to go. It's really cool.
Have you not?
No, I have not. I've been a lot of places in town, but for whatever reason, I just haven't gotten there. Actually, I went to Salem Lake for the first time just a year and a half ago.
Wow.
When I was
It's like a new town for you.
Yeah.
Well, you need to head over to Quarry. You've been there, right? Or have you been there?
Not since a lot of the renovation and so forth, but we used to go.
Yeah, that playground is like crazy. They did a rock theme to match the quarry. They have like little tiny excavators that kids can play with. It's really cool.
That's very cool.
And they have a really tall like climbing tower. It's really cool.
Nice. I love that they're doing that. Yeah.
So who would you like to sit next to on a 10-hour flight, and why?
The list is long.
Dead or alive?
Yeah. Anybody.
Okay. Honestly, probably the first person that comes to mind is Winston Churchill. You can't even imagine the amount of stuff that guy saw and went through. So that would be unbelievable. And I think that I probably would have to do very little talking. Something tells me that Churchill would really, really enjoy dominating the conversation. So, yeah, first person that comes to mind.
Tim, what about you?
Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, interesting.
I have a well-known man crush on Anthony Bourdain, and when he died, it was devastating to me. My wife and I both watched religiously. We've backed up and watched all the streaming stuff of it, and I would just love to sit and talk to him, not as Anthony Bourdain, the television star, not as Anthony Bourdain, the chef, but Anthony Bourdain, the person. I would have to question him on his Ramones fandom, but other than that, I would just love to sit and just listen to him talk about anything, really. Yeah. How about you?
I would probably say Lincoln. I just want to know, like, somebody that did so much for our country, what was behind all his thoughts. Yeah. I would also not have to do a lot of talking either with him, I don't think.
I'll throw in Daniel Day-Lewis as well as somebody present day. Just as an actor, he's one of the people I aspire to the most. Just wild, crazy choices and the way he puts things together. So I'll throw that guy in there. He'd be fascinating to listen to, I think. Yeah, Bourdain's a great choice.
Thank you.
Yeah. My wife would challenge your challenging of the Ramones. She would say, "Oh, come on, that would be like one of the highlights of the conversation."
Oh, no, I think the highlight of the conversation would be getting him to talk about it, but I would be like, why?
And my wife would say, yes.
Yeah. I mean, my thing is I like the later Ramones.
Yeah.
My favorite song by them is Pet Sematary. And I think Joey really meant that he didn't want to live his life again.
I think you might be right. What else you got?
All right, so we know you're talented as an actor and a business owner, but what would you say is one of your most unusual talents that people don't know about?
I love construction. I like to build stuff. So, for instance, the Remedy. I built a decent amount of the stuff that's in there, and then of course I had somebody come over and refine it, make it better than my layman's hands. But no, I do. I love that. I like to design things. The inside of the Remedy, for instance, walking in it was basically a shell. I love to just sit there and think about these possibilities and then start throwing up the walls or the millwork and things like that. So I like to build stuff, and it doesn't always turn out great, but Remedy turned out really cool. I don't know. So yeah, that probably. Yeah, I would dog train too. Yes, okay. There's an unusual one. I've trained a couple of dogs, and so I do like that too. It's fun.
So speaking of construction, I love the story you have about sanding the doors, and tell us that story.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a favorite of mine. So, as I was talking about before, my great-grandfather raised my grandfather up the hill, and so 5 generations, I guess, of our family are now in Winston. And so we were about 2 weeks away from opening. And it's got to be maybe 11 at night. And I'm sanding these doors. I'm sanding the front doors of the building. And my daughter is in the back looking at some of the bookcase because she actually had a hand in some of the ideas and concepts in the bookcase. And I'm sanding away, and I stopped for a moment because it hit me that this was a special moment. And I called my daughter over, and I said, I want you to sand this with me for a minute. So she did, and we just did that for maybe a minute or two in silence. And then I said, I wanted you to do this because it hit me that 5 generations of our family have walked through these doors, and now we get to do that together. So that was a really cherished moment. It was very, very cool, and we both sat there in awe a little bit and just took it all in. But yeah, so I think the construction thing for me and the design stuff for me comes from wanting to preserve and appreciate our history. I think it's always important to recognize that history is worth preserving, and then making something fresh and new for today for everybody to enjoy in its new form, whatever that may be.
So can I say about the remedy? I want to go back to that.
Sure.
With the doors. I love sitting and watching people try to open that one that you're not supposed to use.
I hate looking at that.
and watching the people go and just stare at it like the door did them wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
You have eyes. And they're generally, most people are right at the spot it says, use other door.
I mean, yes, in their defense, I will say that whoever designed that door, probably 100 years ago, they put the overlay on the right-hand side. So if they had put it on the other side, it would function the other way. So you can't use it to the right-hand side because it would lay on top of the other door. So you have to use the other side. You have to use the left-hand side. And in most people's defense, a lot of people are right-handed, so it's their natural inclination to go right-handed.
And you drive on the right, so
it's
that
true.
Traffic goes that way.
It's true.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I will also say that I have now repaired that right-hand door handle 3 times because it's literally been ripped off. So I put a bolt through it and I put thread locker on it so that it cannot be removed, or so I hope. Famous last words.
But also to a less comical thing, I was in that building when it was, I wasn't, but I had visited that building several times when it was the Urban Farm store. And when I found out that this was going in there, and I'm like, really? And then the first time I walked in, I'm like, holy smokes, this is amazing. And it was our spot from the moment that we went there. And I'm not kissing butt because you're sitting here. I'm telling you that's our place to go.
I don't think you do that.
Yeah. That's our place to go. And as I was telling you pregame, that we just love that spot. It's our Saturday routine, as long as nothing else is happening that throws us off. But the atmosphere, the decor, the people, the clientele. I have to say, Eric is one of my favorite people. He is just so genuine. He comes in and I said, "How you doing?" "I'm well. I hope you are."
I love that guy.
Yeah.
And he's hysterical too, by the way.
Yes.
Eric is hilarious if you get a chance to talk to him.
With the Johnny Bravo hair. I love his
Right?
Johnny Bravo hair.
Absolutely. Unabashedly.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, "You gonna cut that thing?" He's like, "I don't know, I might add a few inches." We'll see. He's a great guy. But you have no idea how much that means to me. It means more than you know. That was the whole impetus for even building it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't something that I necessarily needed to do. It was just something that I kind of dreamt of. And I originally thought I was going to do it in retirement. But then when the space became available, I thought, well, this place could sit or could be occupied by the next 10 or 20 years, and then I'm not going to do it at all. So it was COVID, and it was sitting empty, and we all had free time. So I thought, yeah, this is it. The stars are aligning. So that means more than you know.
Absolutely. I love the place. And I appreciate you having it there for us to enjoy. Where did you go to school?
Reynolds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I spent tons of time down on that track and also on the football field, practice field down there. Will eventually be a stadium.
So they say.
So they say. There's talk. So I would be by that building or walking past that building or whatever, every other week for years. So it's always been near and dear to me.
Who's ready for movie night? Our friends at the Ginther Group Real Estate are proud to sponsor another season of innovation and cinema at Bailey Park in downtown Winston-Salem's Innovation Quarter. The final film of the season is Hocus Pocus on October 18th. Bring your chair or blanket to Bailey Park for a great night of cinema from Aperture and beverages and food from a variety of local vendors. Pre-film fun begins at 6:30 p.m. and the movie begins at dark. These magical movie nights are made possible by the Ginther Group, the real estate experts we trust and showcase right here on the Triad Podcast Network. Check their social media for info on each upcoming movie night. And for your real estate needs, call 336-283-8689 or visit theginthergroup.com. Buying, selling, investing, or just learning. Whatever you need, start now. And like me, you can become a Ginther Group client for life.
Life is full of celebrations, birthdays, holidays, life milestones, and so much more. And who has been helping generations of families celebrate these events? Our friends at Dewey's Bakery. And even if you aren't planning for something in the near future, you don't have to wait to enjoy something savory and delicious from Dewey's. Maybe you just need something to get you through your Mondays. Drop by every Monday for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary. Just come celebrate the start of a new week. So, if you're hearing this ad on a Monday and you're in your car, reset that GPS and get to one of their 3 Triad locations immediately in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Renolda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. And any day of the week, you can find the perfect item with fast and easy ordering options at local.deweys.com. Plus, Dewey's does so much to help celebrate our community. To date, they've given back over $4 million to local schools, churches, and other nonprofits. Your next celebration isn't complete without something special from Dewey's Bakery. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
So I have a couple more things. I'm going to throw out names. We can cut this out if you don't want to say it. But Cullen Moss.
Yeah.
My wife actually graduated high school with him, and we've hung out a good bit.
Yeah.
So it's just, I love the actors in this town that are either on their way up or have been somewhere.
Yeah, and I knew Cullen growing up.
Yeah.
He was maybe a year or two behind me in school. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good dude.
Yeah. It's funny because he always plays a-holes. Yeah. And it's what his friends and my wife, they always say that's Cullen Moss, always perpetually on the wrong side of history because he always plays the heel. But he's such a sweet dude.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. Yeah, really nice.
So
guy.
that I think that's a testament to his acting skills. If you can be that sweet of a person and be that much of an a-hole on screen, that's testament.
Yeah, selling it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I haven't caught up with him in some time, but yeah, anytime we had cross paths previously, it was always very pleasant. He's just a good dude. Yeah.
When did you start acting?
Okay, so I studied psychology in graduate school, and then when I got out, I went and got another job to sort of decompress from some of the internship hours that I had were in the psych ward at the hospital, which was fascinating but really difficult. And so I kind of decompressed from that, and I had just a regular job. I was working in a warehouse. And then while I had been in graduate school, I'd had an opportunity to sign on with an agency and get a little bit of work here and there. And they kept calling me, periodically while I was working. And I realized that I'd done a number of theater productions when I was younger. And I love theater. I think it's a wonderful medium, but it's not really what I wanted to do. And I assumed that film would be somewhat similar. When I came to realize that it is wildly different in so many ways, it really bit me. I love the idea that you can have this experience. I've got a quote on the Actors Group studio wall that's from Oscar Wilde, and it says, "I love acting. It's so much more real than life." And you think about that as kind of a tongue-in-cheek, but he 100% means it. And the truth about that is that you go out in the world and there's a decorum with which we need to operate. And that makes good sense. We should, or be mayhem all the time. But as an actor, you do get to indulge that on a real level if you so choose. And not to the point where it's a detriment to your health or anything, but you can really go fall in love with somebody, detest someone, experience whatever you want in a full force kind of way, unabashedly in your dialogue and these things, and throw yourself into it without worry of consequences. And then somebody says cut, and that's it, and you move on. And so there's something really beautiful about that spoke to me. And so after a couple of years of postgraduate school, or right after postgraduate school, I started really getting into reading about it. I read a book I can get my hands on, and I thought, I love this. I really love this, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I moved, and I went to LA, and I started studying just with everything I had, to the point of spending every dime I had on studying, and the full-on broke actor living in the car kind of thing, nearly, and it was tremendous. Jeff Goldblum was one of my instructors for years. Brilliant mind, as quirky as you would imagine, and just taught me so much about the process. So yeah, now it's been really closing in on 30 years that I've been either pursuing or doing it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, before we sign off, I want to share a fun fact that Burgess is going to be guest hosting on this podcast occasionally, so you get to see him again. So thank you for everything, Burgess. And
absolutely. I look forward to it.
All right, so you can find out more about Twin City Talk by following us on Instagram at Twin City Talk, or on Facebook, and visit the website, www.twincitytalk.com.
See you there.
The views and opinions portrayed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily those of the distributors and hosting companies. And if you love this podcast, that's great, but don't think about stealing it. Reach out to us and talk about the content, because it is copyrighted.